Welcome to this week's episode of the Pull List Examiner. This is my weekly video where I take a look at the top 3 comics I'm looking forward to reading when it comes to New Comic Book Day. This week's New Comic Book Day is going to be March 13th, 2024. There are actually a lot of books on my list this week, so make sure you check out all the things I'm going to be picking up from my LCS in the description of the video below. But let's take a look at my top 3. Coming in at number 3 this week is going to be Our Bones Dust, issue number 4. This is from Image Comics. It has been a brutally violent comic, just to be honest, but it has been done very well. The dystopian future that it is set in is something that you can definitely relate with, and you feel sorry for these characters. But what's interesting is, in this series, there is an alien who shows up to essentially research the people who are in, I guess, alive and living in this dystopian future, and they overstep their bounds of doing research and start to help some of the characters. And you, if you are a fan of that futuristic sci-fi, I would say this is probably something right up your alley. The creator of the series is Ben Stenbeck, and he, I think, has been described before in some of the descriptions I've seen as a understudy to Mike Mignola. He helped Mike Mignola on some of the titles like Hellboy, where he stepped in and kind of did some of the backup artwork for those series. So it does have kind of a Mike Mignola feel to it. But it's definitely his own style, and I have liked the series. It'll be interesting to see if it spawns off other mini-series, with this being the final issue. I'm definitely looking forward to reading it and seeing how they wrap it up. At number 2 this week, it is The One Hand. This is over at Image Comics. It is written by the very talented Ram V. It's got some very gritty artwork from an artist named Lawrence Campbell, and it is a detective noir style comic that is on its own very unique and has a very nice plot and story, reminiscent of maybe some other murder mysteries you may have read elsewhere. But what really has intrigued me is that they are connecting this series to another series called The Six Fingers, and they are going to run in parallel with each other. And the Six Fingers is going to be the perspective from the murderer, while this title, The One Hand, is going to be the perspective of the detective. So I think that's kind of a pretty interesting way to publish these two series. I almost wonder, would it be better to read one and then the other? The fact that they're coming out side by side is kind of interesting to read them, one alternating between each other. So it's just kind of a unique way to walk through this plot line. And I mean, we get crossover type stories all the time at every publisher. Marvel and DC are notorious for their big events where you'll get those one shots with stories off on the side. But the fact that this is an interconnected noir detective story running through 2 comics with 2 different perspectives, I just find that to be kind of a unique take, and I'm really looking forward to reading both series as we go forward. My number 1 pick for this week is going to be Little Black Book, issue number 1. This series is written by Jeff McCumsey, and that's why I have very high expectations, because he was also the author creator of the title The Fourth Man, which, also by AWA Comics, was one of my favorite comics in a long time. I think in 2022 it came out, I believe, and it was my number 1 pick for the whole year as the comic series to read. If you haven't read The Fourth Man, go find the graphic novel somewhere. It's definitely worth reading. But with that high expectation I am now placing it on this series. We'll see what we get. It sounds like a very interesting plot line with somebody getting mixed up in what sounds like the mafia. And one big change between that other series and this series is the person who is on artwork is somebody I am not familiar with. Their name is Chris Ferguson. I am familiar with Mike Deodato, who worked on the previous title, and he brought kind of a gritty movie-like artwork, and I think this is going to be different from that. So we'll see what we get. I do have high expectations. I love a lot of the series that come from AWA Comics, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what we get from this title. Thanks for watching this week's episode of the Pull List Examiner. Remember to always check my comics in the description below of what I will be picking up at the LCS. This week I have over 10 books. I think it's up to 12 or 13 now. It's always fun to see what other people are reading, so feel free to drop a comment into this video and let me know what you're reading. Thanks again for watching, and remember to read them, bag them, and board them, and we'll see you next time on the Pull List Examiner.